Okay, so should we record the intro now?
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
Okay, so we don't need it. I guess you don't want to do welcome to episode 30 or anything. Nah. Okay, just
Well, if you want to, go ahead.
I don't care. It's up to you.
Go for it. Do it.
Okay.
Do it for free.
Welcome to the Archispeak Podcast. I'm Evan Troxel. Each episode, Neil Pan, Cormac Phelan, and I have a casual conversation about all things architecture, and we invite you to listen in as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the blocks of Corbusier's City of Tomorrow more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we stand around the water cooler and talk about why we love our chosen profession. It's time for some Archispeak.
I died in South Africa. All the outline, my body in Tiffany blue. When I died, I drove right and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank.
Welcome to episode 30 of the Archispeak Podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
All right, so I got something for you guys. All right, let me give you a little background. Client works for a builder. And a builder developer of residential housing. So they kind of take advantage of their architects, I think, a little bit. They certainly treat them, as just a necessary evil, and no more better than a contractor. So I'll preface all of this with that. At least that's my opinion of developers I've worked with. Not all of them, but some. Anyway, I was recommended for a project, and it was a little pool house. And anyway, the project was originally just, we need a design for this pool house. An existing one. Had some water damage. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll do a little contract, and I'll design something for you, an internal design. So picked out some furniture, did a layout, said in the contract I'd make one round of changes based on comments. So got started, did the work. They made about 3 different rounds of small changes, but still, it's an hour here, an hour there. So finished it last November, or around late November, early December. Christmas time came along, invoiced the guy for November, never got anything. Finally, after the holidays, oh, I'm sorry, busy during the holidays, after the holidays, first part of the year. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, by the way, need a couple other changes made, a couple of notes added to it. I'm going to submit this to the county for planning approval. Okay.
This is the developer?
This is the developer, yeah. This is for his own house, not for the developer itself, sorry. For his own personal thing.
Okay.
So, anyway, so the contract was just to do a design. Had just a very minimal design fee to it. An existing structure. So I didn't put any dimensions on it except for maybe where we were adding new stuff, right? Like a new wall and a new closet area or some new cabinetry. That's it. I didn't put any, and I didn't dimension the outside of the building because it's not changing, right? So he submits this to the county building department or planning department. And they've sat on it for like a month and a half or something.
Wow.
So in the meantime, in negotiating the contract, he originally had scratched out the terms of my contract that said that, you need to pay me within 14 days. Otherwise, there's additional
He just scratched it out? He didn't make a change?
He scratched it out and said, no, this needs to be 30 days.
Okay.
And I negotiated that back in, basically using the argument that I am not a large firm. I'm a one-man shop, and I can't afford to float you money for 30 days.
Yeah.
And we're talking only a 3-figure fee here. Okay, we're not even talking a 4-figure fee. And so he agreed to that. So when I finished the drawings to the point where, okay, he had no other comments, didn't want any other changes, which, by the way, were not in part of the contract. He went way beyond it. But I was like, okay, I'll just get it done. All right, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
I invoiced him. 30 days later, I'm like, where's my fee? Oh, I must have missed that. Yeah, well, I'll make sure you get paid. He sends me an email saying, oh, yep, see, I've authorized the payment for another 10 days later. That I would then see the payment come in the mail. You know, because he sends me his bank account's auto email thing that says when it's going to get paid. Another 10 days later. Mm-hmm. So I finally am paid. Contract, as far as I'm concerned, is complete. Now, he did talk about, hey, when it's time, and I told them, when it's time for construction drawings, we'll do an actual contract to do that work. Mm-hmm. So I guess he got planning comments today, sends me a message with the planner's email below saying something to the effect of basically, hey, here's the planner's comments. He wants you to add all these dimensions and some other notes and some other additional information. And please get that done and resubmit it to me.
Yeah.
And as I pick up my jaw off the floor, I'm like, what? Resubmit what to you for why? And I'm supposed to get paid for what?
Well, for nothing, right?
For nothing.
Well, what you need to do is take your original contract, send it to him with a nice little email that basically reminds him the terms of the contract and the terms that this was not a permit set. This wasn't anything to be submitted for review to the to the county or whoever. It was a design set only.
Oh, and when you say set, you're being overly generous, Cormac, because I submitted to him one 11 by 17 because the building's fairly small, that just had like, here's a new floor plan for this existing building. Oh, that was it. That's what I had originally submitted, right? Then he came back to me and says, oh, I need the original floor plan as well. So I had to recreate. Well, I actually had already created that because I created an existing one first and then modified it. So I had the drawing. So I had to create a new sheet essentially. So it's like 2 sheets. One's existing, one's with the new. And anyway, so I'm asking you guys. I mean, it seems pretty clear cut to me that this is outside my scope.
I wouldn't even remind him of what you've already done. It's obvious. I would just send him a new contract.
That's
just say, here's what I would. Here's what it'll take to go forward.
Yeah. Say. You could at least be kind and say, per conditions of last last contract, I'm sending you this proposal, this fee proposal for, construction documentation and permit, I guess permit review or whatever,
right.
something to that effect. Just reminding him that you already have. I mean, at least letting him know that, look, this was not my scope, and we've already completed that scope. Now this is something completely different because these were never intended to be submitted for permit.
And if you'd like to start that contract, there'll be this much, deposit or whatever you want to call it. And I'll be happy to get started on that.
So let me ask you this, because here's where people, especially with developers, tend to, and I am a perfect example. I did this to myself when, I was solo. Is this a guy that you have done work with in the past and are going to be working with again?
No, I've never met, never worked with them before. Their firm does do work with other firms that I know the people that work there. That's how I got recommended. because this was for his own personal. So they're not going to touch that sort of small stuff.
So this was just a one-off. Hey, Neil will help this guy move around a couple of walls.
Yeah, but here's the trick. I see this with a lot of clients too, especially those that tend to get fishing or that seem to be fishing, for information, for free, essentially. They always dangle the carrot out there for you. So like the first time I meet them, what do they start talking to me about? Oh, we don't like our house. We got issues with the house. We really want to remodel and add on and do this and do that with our house. Oh, you can help us do that too. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's something we want to do. We'll have to do that after we do this project. So, they dangle the carrot out there in front of you like, oh, well, if they're happy with what I do on this little pool house that they're essentially getting and have already gotten any services I've done for free, right? I mean, they've paid me some money, but essentially what they paid me is peanuts, right? But yet they still have talked to me about, oh, well, there's a bigger project here potentially. And, you see this, I saw this all the time with the developers I used to work for, where they're always talking about, oh, yeah, we're going to, there's another project. They're always doing projects, right? And so, you always want to try and do the best job you can and make them the happiest person in the world. And even for repeat clients, you still want to make them happy because you want them to come back to you. But the funny thing about working in the home building industry is that, architects, and I'm sure this happens to you guys in the school, working with schools, districts as well, but your firm builds a reputation. And whether or not it's justified or not, if you work for a firm that kind of does down and dirty work and, it's efficient, but it's maybe not high design, so you get labeled that way. And it's like, oh, well, we got this new project that, is in a more desirable area. We need better design, so we're not even going to call these guys because we know they can't do it. And sometimes maybe that's true, but maybe it's not. But you don't even get a chance, right?
Yeah.
Or what?
Or if if they do come to you, they're going to expect you to give them a down and dirty fee that, isn't commensurate to the amount of work and the amount of design and all that other stuff that you put into it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of goes, both ways. I mean, if you're a real high-end firm, then you only get the calls to do the real high-end projects, which I suppose is good because you have this reputation of you're expensive. But I've also sat on the other side of those tables because I've worked for developers as well. And I've sat back in these owners' meetings, right? And one of the developers I worked for was a private company. And so, like, literally the three guys that owned the business were sitting in the room. And I've seen the way they talk about architects. And it's not pleasant. And I've worked for a public company as well. And the way they talk to... In fact, this is kind of interesting. One of the public companies I used to work for, the director of construction... he wanted to basically back charge the architect for an error on the drawings that got repeated over and over and over by, I don't know, one of the trades, plumber, electrical, I forget exactly. And it wasn't even necessarily an error, or maybe it was. I don't remember exactly what it was. But he literally wanted to back charge the architect tens of thousands of dollars. And they called the architect in, and the architect's like, how do you justify trying to bill me for every house that you did this in when you only paid me to design 3 houses? The plumber, or let's just say it was a plumber comes in, he bills you for every house he does plumbing in, right? So if there's 50 or 100 houses in this project, he bills you for every single one of them. He makes a mistake, he has to go fix 100 houses. You get back charged for 100 different times, right? But it's like the architect gets paid once. And it's like, you can't expect me to pay for every single mistake for every single house. Yeah. It just if you want to, if I can adjust, the architect's argument was like, if I could make my fee for every single house, you can backcharge me all you want, because the fee is going to be 50 times bigger, right? Or maybe not that much, but it's going to be some order of magnitude larger. And it just it blows me away how the building industry, and I say that as in the home building industry, thinks about how architecture is done and how we're treated. And so I'm coming to this with some baggage, right? I mean, I've seen it from both sides of the table. I've seen the way architects are treated, and now this guy works for a developer, and I see the way he's treating me. He's treating me just like one of his big architecture firms that he deals with, and he treats them like hell.
Yeah.
And it's I got to pay you?
I have a question for you.
What?
How did you get recommended for this job?
I got recommended.
Why did you get recommended?
Because the client was looking for some work on his own place, and asked one of the bigger firms, architectural firms that the developer works or employs to do some of their architecture, if they could do it. And of course they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. That's not what we do. And so they said, well, we know some people that are on their own, that are good people, good architects, that they know. And so, they gave him my name. And so he called me, and I met him, and, it's like, oh yeah, I can do this for you. I can give you a design on this, this little
Okay, but
building.
the reason was that you have some kind of reputation, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now you get to decide what your reputation continues to be. Right?
Yeah.
And so,
and that's what I'm struggling with, right?
Well, yeah, no, see, I don't see it as a struggle, right? Because you get to decide your reputation. They don't, right? So you get to decide how you're going to handle this, and you are going to decide, I'm hoping, that you're going to charge more money to move on to the next phase, or they're going to pick somebody else to continue the work.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about a reputation is that you get to decide basically every single day what your reputation is going to be. And I think you have some baggage. You're coming at this like you're reacting to it, but really you get to be proactive about how you're going to handle this. Like, you're in control, right? They can't make you do the work. And if they want to work with you enough because you've done such a great job already, then they can continue that or not. But I think a lot of architects kind of look at this and say, how am I going to keep this crappy relationship going, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's going to be a good relationship, but a lot of times it's a crappy relationship. And like you're saying, there's a reason that these guys are talking the way they do about architects in these conversations, and it's because they do treat people like crap. And so you can decide, I'm not going to be treated like crap anymore or ever. But I guess you get to decide, and I think that we're in a bigger position of power than that.
Evan, you've got a point. Let me give you another example. Over the last month or so, I've been going back and forth with a local college, and I came recommended to them as somebody that could come in and do a small project for them that they didn't want to go through DSA for. And DSA, for those that don't know, is the California Department of State Architect that all school projects have to go through to get approval.
Public school. Yeah.
Public schools, yes, sorry. Public schools, thank you. You would know this a whole lot better than I do. So what I did was a firm that I know some people at do this type of work. So I talked to them, and they said, well, yeah, we would like to get involved with this school, with this college. And, this could be a way for us to do that. And we can do this under our name because we have the insurance, we have the some of the expertise, but you can be the project manager and the contact for it. And, I was kind of bringing the job to them. So, long story short, we put together a proposal to do this small project. And after about 2 weeks, we heard back. And, they were all gung-ho. Oh, we need this right away. We need it right away. Then 2 weeks goes by. I don't hear anything. Yeah, we're still looking at it. And then, now, some additional background. They gave me some sample drawings of this building that they were going to do some renovation in. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, this is done by another firm. And we met them, or we met the client the person representing the college. And they said, yeah, this other firm is doing the bigger project, this larger refinishing of this whole building. And we just need you to do this little part of it. And, it was like, okay, well, I got to come in and measure this and, document this. But I'm like, this other firm's already done this. So I'm scratching my head at the beginning going, why are they even talking to me? Right? It seemed very fishy. And I talked to the architect from the other firm, and he says, yeah, this sounds very strange, but okay, let's submit a proposal. So we did. So 2 weeks goes by. I get an email from him. Oh, thank you very much for your proposal, but we've decided to go with somebody else. And I'm looking around like, what do you mean you've decided to go with somebody? You never even told me that you were bidding this out to anybody. Uh-huh. They never even admitted that they did. And so I'm just like, okay, what the heck is going on here? It's like, were they trying to use us as leverage against this other firm to do this work for maybe a cheaper price? I don't know. That could have been, but they didn't tell us. They just said, oh, yeah, we're not happy with them or something. They said that early on. Okay. So I guess they weren't happy with me either. So a month goes by. I get an email from them last week. Oh, apparently, and we told them very early on, as I consulted with the other firm and somebody from their office came out. He said, this is likely going to have to go through DSA. You're not going to be able to do what you want. Oh, no, we can. We can do this. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we get an email back from him. Oh, we'd like you to resubmit your proposal and add some structural and some fire life safety, stuff to the project. And yeah, we're going to go through DSA on this. And yeah, we understand it's going to take a little longer. And so I'm like, okay, but you said you wanted to move into this space, a temporary space.
That's not going to change,
in May. So I said, has the scope changed? And I get an email back. No, scope is still the same. We understand we're going to work off of some existing drawings while we wait for DSA approval. Yeah. So I have a conversation with the other architect, the one I was consulting with, and we've both decided that we're tired of being played, and we made the decision actually this morning. We're like, no, I emailed the client today and said, I'm sorry, but we're not going to submit a proposal for this project at this time. Thank you very much. We do appreciate you contacting us again, but we decided to walk away. And so it's a long-winded story here, but it's pointing out what you just said. I'm defining my own reputation at this point.
Exactly. Well, you get to decide how your story is going to be told from here on out, right? And if you want that developer to continue to take advantage of maybe you, but probably not, maybe other people, if you decide to do a favor for them or work for, do the changes for free or whatever, then that's basically paying it forward, right? Whoever they deal with next, they're going to have the same expectation of.
Right.
And that doesn't help anybody in the industry. It doesn't help our industry get better, get stronger. And that's a lot of the reasons why we are where we are, right? And we're not the only industry suffering from that. But if with the competitiveness of the low bidder mentality, the race to the bottom, it's like the only place that actually leads to is bankruptcy, right? It doesn't lead to winners at all. So I feel like too many people are too willing to jump into that, or have been in the past, and that's why a lot of firms went under during this recession.
Well, yeah, and I think what you're saying, Evan, is a problem that we've caused with ourselves, because you're right. Too many people are willing to kind of just undercut themselves and kind of take the abuse because they're just looking for a job.
Well, under the guise of staying busy, right?
Right.
But losing
exactly.
money at the same time.
Exactly. And so going back to your first example, Neil, I mean, do you want to have a job just to have the job? You've already seen kind of what this guy's going to do. He's late in payment, or he makes up excuses on why he's not going to pay you. He keeps pushing the scope. He's scope creep, and so you're
about
this,
that.
Yeah. So you're at this point where, he's what little he was actually going to pay you. He's, you've spent that, 10 times over.
Well, and he knows that it's in his best interest to find out if you're willing to bend over backwards for him or not.
Right.
It doesn't hurt to ask is the excuse, right?
Well, you're right. It doesn't. And, I've been having to get a new washer and dryer this week, or over the last week and a half. Been
bringing it back to reality.
Bringing it back to reality. And, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is it's human nature. Maybe it's not. I don't know. You guys tell me. But, everybody always wants to get the best deal they can. And in trying to negotiate with GE on these washer and dryer prices, because part of this is kind of a pseudo warranty thing, not really a warranty, but they're giving me a price break because something failed, but even though it's out of warranty, anyway, long story. But I'm working it as hard as I can to get every dollar off this washer and dryer. So why should I expect my clients not to do the same thing?
Yeah,
I guess.
They can ask, and you can decline, right? I mean, a great negotiating tactic is 4 words. Can you do better? Right? It never hurts to ask, can you do better? But you also have the ability to say, this is it. This is my limit.
Right.
And I think that's a fine response. I don't know why, and I think Mark LePage is screaming at the podcast right now as he listens to it. Because his thing is profit first, then art, right? You have to be thinking about making money on a project, or else you will not be doing projects,
right. Or
at all.
Exactly.
Well, and you're right. And from the beginning of the year, I've restructured. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast recently. I've restructured my contracts, restructured my fee structure. That sounded horrible, but apologize. Anyway, and it's been successful. I'm excited because I've completed 1 or 2 projects recently.
It feels good to make money. It
feels
right?
good, and
yeah.
I've made money. Well,
yeah.
And it's not like I made money enough to retire. I'm not retiring on this, but
it's amazing the psychological impact that has on people.
It's so great to feel like, yeah, I'm really excited to, in fact, run into this client while I was out of town a week ago. I literally ran into their family, and
like a car accident.
No, sorry. No, but
sorry, I joke.
No, I was recently out of town on a little short vacation with the family, and my clients ended up being at the same place.
Wow.
Unbeknownst to both of us. I knew they were going on vacation.
Yeah, right. Stalker.
But I had no idea. So,
hi, I'm Neil.
I hope they didn't feel that way when
I work for the NSA.
when they saw me. Well, I was with my family, so at least I had some cover, right?
Yeah.
It's like that guy who's trying to get a date with a girl and walks around with the puppy. And
But would have been even creepier? They owed me final payment, so I could have said, yeah, guys, where's my final payment? I'm here to collect.
I want my $2.
Actually, the best thing about it was when I got back into town, they had sent me the check, and it was in the mail, and I had already had it. So
you're like, yeah,
I've
heard that before.
But it's exciting to see your client, because I do a lot of local work. So I run into the people I work with or work for. And it's exciting to see them and know that I don't feel bad. or it's like, you know what, I really don't want to talk to you because you shafted me so much on this
really.
frickin' project that I don't want to ever talk to you again. In fact, I don't even want to advertise myself as doing your project because you just pissed me off so bad.
Yeah.
Or I don't even want to work on it. Or, you know what? I'd rather go sit and watch a TV show tonight instead of working on your project because I'm not making any money at it.
Well, then that goes back to, the original question that you had is, about this particular project, this particular, client. I mean, you've, as Evan said, you've got all of the control here. I mean, this is your reputation. This is what you, as much as what they want out of the project is important, it's as much what you want out of the project. So you've got the control to either submit to this guy, your fee proposal for the next step, or to step on out.
Yeah. I mean, what this reminds me of is there's a great post by Derek Sivers. You guys follow him at all online? He was the guy who started CD Baby, which was like the largest online kind of indie music seller before iTunes. That's where all my band's music went through when we first were releasing our stuff. He has this, if you go to sivers.org/hell yeah is the URL. We'll put it in show notes. And the title is No More Yes. It's either hell yeah or no. And I feel like if you're really excited about a project, you just know it, right? And sometimes that means you're going to do it for less money, and sometimes it means you're going to do it for a lot of money, and it's a no-brainer. But either way, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? And I feel like there are projects that you will do because you're so excited about it for very little money because you're getting way more out of it. The value you're getting out of it is worth more than the money you would charge. And so there are times when you will do things to get your foot in the door or to impress somebody or to work with somebody. So it's, and we all know this happens all the time. But I love this blog post because if he is not saying hell yeah about something, then say no, because you want to spend your life doing the things that you're saying hell yeah about. And that's really kind of the gist of it. It's a great blog post. I recommend everybody reads it. But that, like you're saying, you're running into these people and you're excited. You just want to talk to them, right? The project went well. Everybody did great. Maybe, there's those times when you meet with your client and you just see this big grin show up on their face. I never thought of that, and you're like, well, this is what I do, and it is exciting and it is fun. And those are the things we want to spend our time doing. And there's times when we're digging in and using more brain cells than we have and things are tough, but we're getting things out of it. And I feel like if we would concentrate on doing jobs that we're super excited about, then again, psychologically, the way that affects you is very successful for you and it leads to more success. Because if that client had a great experience working with you, that is going to rub off onto the people that they mention you to, and again, the way that your reputation gets around by word of mouth, that's going to rub off on people and they're going to recommend you just because you were so great to work with or so fun to work with, or you did something amazing for them. Yeah. It's a cool thing.
Well, that's a great, I haven't read that post, but I mean, what you're describing is exactly the way I want to feel. I want to see when I get that email from him or a phone call from the client, like, yeah, hey, I'm excited to talk to you. What can we do to make this project better? And I don't have that fuzz. I don't get that feeling. Yeah. So how do I turn it into a hell yeah?
I can tell that too. I feel like that's a good kind of backboard too, is ask somebody you trust. With me, it's my wife. Hey, what do you think about this? Right. She's like, no, idiot. Thank you. I mean, that clear, honest feedback is like, yeah, you know what? You're right. But you get so caught up in the moment that you don't see it. And I feel like there's sometimes when you just have that gut feeling, but there's a lot of times when you kind of don't know. And it's easy enough just to ask somebody, hey, what's your take on this? And they can make it so clear, so fast that this excruciating decision that you've been agonizing over, it's like, what have I been wasting my time on this for?
Right, and that's my second example about the college. That's kind of where we were today. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to agonize. I'm not going to stress.
You just
and
knew
deal
it.
with it. It's like, I'm done with this.
You've got this bad feeling. I mean, it's not going to go. It's probably not going to go away.
Right, and so, you know, maybe what the first example is, as you guys suggested, you know, respond with another proposal or some sort of, you know, I'm not sure how I'll word it, but essentially, you know, as our, oh gosh, Evan, the guy from Mule Design.
Mike Montero. Yeah.
Mike Montero.
I was going to say, have you watched that?
Yes, I have.
Lately.
Not lately, but maybe I will. Of course, if I do that, I may lose him as a client because there might be some bad words to fly from that. But I do feel that way. It's like, you know, yeah, you know, F you, pay me, and I'd be happy to do some more work for you.
Well, yeah, and the main meaning behind the message is my work is worth this money, right?
Right.
And again, you know, I can hear Mark saying it now. You know, you are worth money. What you do services in exchange for money. That is the exchange, right?
Right.
And so, really, that's what his talk is all about. I do this for money. That is the transaction.
Right.
So. And that's the foundation of this.
You
and
know,
so if you're the kind of person who says, I do it for the feelings, or I do it for the smile I see that you have because you're so excited to work on this project, those don't pay the rent, right? And so really it has to start with the money.
Yeah.
And Neil, I mean,
Yes,
you've got to be fair. You've got to be fair to yourself. I mean, you've already done. In fact, you've done like 3 times what you've already been paid. So you're done. You know,
well,
now this is a new contract,
right,
to do new services.
So
don't
Evan,
just
you said it so you said something about, like, you know, that gut feeling. Here's my gut feeling. My client has got the audacity. Now, he's already paid me in full for this prior contract. I'm done.
Yeah.
He has paid me out. Okay, final invoice paid, done. He has the audacity in his email to say, do this and get me the updated drawings.
Well, again, he's probably thinking, it doesn't hurt to find out.
Well, look, he's put, you know, I mean, he's
put me in a very strange position, I think.
He's probably thinking to himself that, you know, your services are not done. You know, the $1.50 that I've already paid you doesn't just stop at whatever it is. It's, you know, there's now more demand on this project. It's not finished.
We had an understanding. Yeah.
You know.
Well, do you think that maybe that's where he's coming from?
I can almost guarantee that.
In his mind, he hired me to get him through the planning department in the county, and that hasn't been done yet. So, regardless of what the contract says or how much he's paid me, you know, it's like you haven't finished your job yet. That's probably exactly it. But even though he may be fully conscious of what the terms of the contract are, he's going to just continue to push it till he gets exactly what he needs for essentially no additional cost. Yeah. And, you know, so you have to be the one to remind him, hey, this is above the scope of the contract that we both agreed upon. We either renegotiate, you know, you just forget about renegotiating. You give him you just give him a new contract to sign.
With a definition of scope.
Exactly.
I remember when I was taking pro practice in school, and it was my professor, Michael Falonis, he had this lecture one day, and it was all about additional services, right? Because you're in your contract, all your scope has already been defined, and so even if you're not billing for your final payment for a specific scope, if it wasn't in the scope, he just had this face, and in front of him on the desk, he had a pile. He came to class with a pile of ad service forms, right? Blank ones. And so every time he'd say, and then they'll say this, and then you pick one of these up and you hold it out in front of you and you hand it to him, you know? And he goes, and then they'll say this. later on in the project, and he'll pick up another one and he'll stick it out there. And by the end of the class, he had gone through 20 additional. He goes, these are all the things that you didn't charge for in the beginning that you have to get paid for in order to do, because you don't work for free. And we don't do that, right? We feel bad. We have this obligation, this mental obligation where we don't feel like we're justified in charging for these things.
So,
well, let me throw another hypothetical out there.
Okay.
Or go ahead, Neil.
Well, I was going to say, so how off base would I be to respond to this email with basically, hey, great, that you have, some comments back from the planning department. I'd be happy to take care of them for you. Here is an addendum to the contract for, that I need you to sign, basically for hourly charges not to exceed a certain number of hours to complete the rest of this project.
I don't even think about it as completing. I mean, honestly, it's an additional contract. Here's the scope. Yeah,
read the exact wording of the scope that you sent him originally, that you both agreed upon. And if you feel confident that everything that he's asking for now is above and beyond that contract, it's a new contract.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, thanks for wanting to continue to work with me on this new phase of work. Here's a contract for here's a contract for this scope. As soon as you sign it and get me this deposit, I'd be happy to get started on it.
I would go even a little bit firmer than that. It's just like, as you know, the previous scope of work contained X, Y, and Z, and did not contain any, development for permit documentation. Since you've chosen to submit it for permit, here is my, here's my contract, or here's my proposal for preparing the permit documents and responding to any permit comments so that you can get a building permit, something like that. At least just say, look, you've used up your money. You've used up my work. I'm done. I want to, because you just got to remind him that you did not plan on these drawings to go into permit. He chose to put them into permit, and they're not contract documents. They're not construction documents.
You're absolutely right. They're not, and I wasn't anticipating. I was actually kind of surprised when he said he was submitting them to the planning department. It was a ballsy move on his part. He was trying to basically. This is what. I'm somewhat angry about it, because what he basically did was he knew what he was getting out of you, and he took. This was all calculated. Let's just call it what it is. This was all a calculated move on his part. He knew that all he got from you was some design documents.
Yeah, especially if he's in the industry, he knows exactly what.
He knows what is going on, and he submitted those design documents as construction documents for permit.
Well, I'm sure he was hoping just to get an over-the-counter approval.
Oh yeah, and he was hoping to get that,
and it didn't work.
He's like, oh, now I've got comments. Oh, now Neil has to go back and fix these.
Well, but
fix what? You don't have to fix anything, because you never prepared a set of permit documents, or you would have included all of the other things that the permitting office is requiring.
Right.
Because you've gone through this. You know exactly what they required, and you didn't prepare those because that wasn't the contract.
Nope, the contract was for design for him.
Right.
I told him, you need to, if you want to submit, I said, we did talk originally about doing CDs for this, but he wanted to, I said, well, let's do design. Let me do a design for you, and you can see if, now, in full disclosure, he did say, and early on, and I did tell him, hey, you can take this design drawing and show it to the planning department and say, hey, I'm planning on doing this. Is that okay?
Well,
is that okay to do that?
Safe. Yeah.
But,
you know, I mean,
see,
that's
we
my
do that.
advice to him, to say, you know, hey, you don't want to go any further with this. You don't want to incur any problems, right? So check and make sure. But I didn't tell him to submit the plans, you know, or to submit them for that purpose. It was like, hey, use these as a conversation to have with the planning department, with the county, to see if this is okay.
Every project that I ever do, we always have, during the design process, we have a sit down with the permitting office and the fire marshal and everybody else to find out, you know, if we're all on the same sheet of music when it eventually does come into their office for review.
Yeah, so there's no surprises.
Right.
So there's no
right.
surprises.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's not meaning that
That's
you
just
can go and
smart
take
business,
a set of DD documents and say, hey, let's go build it.
Surprise!
Well, and,
You know?
he didn't submit it to the county building department. He submitted it to the planning department. So, you know, in his defense, he's looking for planning approval. But, Cormac, you're absolutely right. These are not even planning documents at this point,
No,
right?
it's just a
It's
design.
It's not even a site plan. It's a floor plan that exists in a vacuum. In fact, one of the comments was, here's an aerial of your project, of your property. I'm circling this building. Is that the building you're talking about? Because I didn't even submit a site plan for this, right? I mean, I didn't need to. I just gave him a design for a floor plan for his approval, because they wanted to change the inside a little bit, right? And I said, okay, yeah, that's all this contract is a design for the floor plan. Oh, I want to see what all the elevations are going to look like. And that did strike me as odd. I'm like, okay, we're going to put a sliding glass window in. That's about the only, and I think actually there was one other small window they were going to add. And I'm like, well, why do you even need to see elevations of that? I mean, this is down the hill a little bit in your backyard.
Because he was going to play. He got as much information as he wanted out of you,
Right.
and as much information as you were willing to give him, essentially for free,
Yeah, well, you just
so that he could submit. You didn't say no, and he knew what he was going to do, and by basically not really letting you know exactly what he was doing, he was getting all the information that he needed so he could submit it. And, you know, go forward and hope that he got, as Evan said, he was hoping to get, you know, a quick turnaround, a quick approval.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. He got some comments, and he's like, oh, well, now I got to make sure Neil can make this work, which is that second contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Good to know it works. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
God. Well, anyway, but thank you for the advice.
Well, I think,
and advice for everybody, right? I mean, that's why we're talking about it.
But I think contracts overall are a thing that they don't even have to do with the architecture business. They could be a lot of things. You know, I mean, I used to do a ton of freelance work, and there would be things that clients would ask me to do, and I had a stipulation in the contract that was like, if I need to make a change for you, then I need to notify you within 24 hours that it's going to cost more money or not, right? And I ended up doing some stuff that cost me a lot more time, so I billed the client. And they sent me back my contract with that part highlighted, basically saying, you're an idiot. I'm not going to pay you for this because you didn't tell me it was going to cost more.
Nice.
And they were right. I couldn't fight that at all. You know,
Right.
I wanted to get paid more money because I did more work, but I didn't let them know. You know, and I was young and I was stupid, and guess what? I won't make that mistake again. But it's the same thing here. It's like you just go back to them with any contract and say, you know what? That wasn't in the scope. That wasn't covered. You didn't pay for that. So here you go. Here's an ad service, or here's a new contract if that one's done, or whatever it is. There's so many things that this applies to, you know, going into business with family, doing something for family. You know, we never use contracts for that kind of thing. And we should, just because if you don't, you're going to have a big old fight with your family, you know, and super uncomfortable.
I have a rule. I don't work for family.
Well, I think a lot of people have that
don't.
rule because so many people have been burned.
Family or friends, because oftentimes when that has happened, they're no longer friends at the end of the project. And I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I always look at my family's projects and I'm saying, you do know what I do for a living, right?
Yeah.
I could have helped make this better.
For free.
Yeah, probably. Just ask. You know?
Yeah. I say that, being somewhat serious, but, if a family member needed some help, of course, I'm here. This is what I do. Please ask my advice. I'd give it to you happily, and help you any way I can. But there is that danger, you got to be really careful when there's money involved, or, if you are doing it pro bono and you're doing it for free, it's like, sometimes they take advantage of you, and you do more, and then you start getting resentful, and that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Well, one of the cool things, I think this was in, speaking of Mike Montero, I think this was in his book, Design as a Job, which we've linked to previously, but we'll add it to the show notes again. But I'm pretty sure this is where I read it. When you're doing discounted work or free work, pro bono, because, we do that kind of thing all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Or lots of architects do. You still invoice the client, but you apply the discount to it so that they know the value of what you did for them. And I think that that's super important psychologically, not only for them, but for you too, right? That when you bill them and you say, yep, I'm going to do this for you for super cheap, you're going to pay me $1, or I'm going to do this for 50% off, you still bill them for the whole amount less the discount, so that they can actually see what you did for them was worth a certain amount of money. And that is a huge deal that not enough people do as well.
Now, I'm curious as if anybody's ever done that.
Yeah, right.
I'm just curious if they, if it's perceived as something, that's, in poor taste to, show them all, of
well, that was the first.
I can give you an example of that. A few years ago, I had a project, and it was strictly an hourly project or hourly contract, which is the smartest thing I did, because we spent almost a year and a half on and off through design, or almost 2 years on this project. And early on in the project, I had a certain hourly rate. It was early in 2009. I was just starting and, thinking, oh, well, I really deserve this hourly rate. And I did deserve that. That's what I should have been charging. But over time, the client in this case, we just spent tons and tons of time in design, and they were getting nervous with how much they were spending. And so, in fact, they got so nervous that there was a landscape architect working on the project, and they were not giving these guys any break at all. And they basically were like, well, we don't want to call them. We don't want to talk to them because they're just costing us too much. Mm-hmm. And what I did was I stepped up and said, well, you know what? And I had already been doing this for not a long time, but I had already been giving them a discount on my fees. But I just wasn't telling them. I was like backing off the hours, which is another rule. Don't do that, by the way, people. Jeez. Here's an example of what you shouldn't do. Okay, I was actually showing less hours on my invoice so that I could give them a fee that I thought that they would be willing to pay each month. I mean, there was sometimes I was doing a lot of work, or 30, 40 hours a month on this project. It wasn't my only thing going, but it was like this was an ongoing thing. And so the hours started to rack up. And so I was cutting those hours to make the fee less and more what I figured they would be willing to pay. And so anyway, when they had this conversation with me about the landscape architect, and I said, well, you know what I can do is I'll give you a discount. I'll cut my hourly rate down to help, minimize the fee. I understand, we're spending tons and tons of time on this. And they were so excited by that. They were like, yeah, oh, that's great. Neil came out a hero because I was willing to do that. And I had already been doing it. So I kind of like saved my ass, right? Yeah. By doing this, and made myself look like a hero to them. And they were very excited. And we kept working on the project. And so, that's one way that I kind of indirectly, I came out okay on this one. But I definitely broke some rules there that I shouldn't have. And part of what made this a problem for me was that we hadn't done some work in a while. And then they suddenly had all this work, and I did a number of hours in a very short period of time on this project, and I had to bill for it. And it was a lot of deliverables that I gave them, and I'm like, I can't just say this is only 20 hours of work when it was really 40 or 8, maybe it was 80 hours of work, and I'm telling them it's 40.
What happens the next time they go to somebody and say, hey, look at all this work, it's only going to take 20 hours, right?
Right, exactly. And so I'm like, I really need to bill them for 40 or 50 hours. I really can't say I did this in 20, right? Because it was a bunch of stuff. And so that's when it all kind of happened at the same time, and I was able to, spin it and hey, I'll give you a discount. And then I could bill them for the full number of hours, get paid what I was going to bill them in the first place for, and then made myself out. But they see that
the actual effort. Yeah.
Neil gave a discount, and they got all this work for this discounted price. So I saved myself there. But man, that was a tough situation I was going into there, and so that's an example of, hey, what I should have been doing early on is saying, well, it took me 80 hours this month, or say it was 40 hours this month. I'm only going to bill you for 20, effectively cutting my rate, but showing that. And I should have been showing that on my invoice, and I wasn't. So that's what you're recommending, Evan, is show them that discount.
Yeah. Well, it's just like working in a big firm and filling out your time card, and I don't know anybody who's guilty of this, but people people put
present company excluded
40 hours a week, no matter what, right?
Not anymore.
And I mean, tons of people do this. Tons of people do this because they want their job to look profitable. They want it not to run out of hours. But we all know that, again,
for some reason,
people who are figuring out how much effort it's going to take to do a job can only go off this historical data. And if the historical data is all wrong, then what the hell are you writing down non-accurate historical data for?
Exactly.
It's crazy, but it's the exact same problem.
Hey, can we pause for just a second here and somebody call 911 because Mark LePage has probably passed out by now. Discounts? What are you talking about?
Discounts? Discounts?
Exactly.
I think you're right, Cormac. I'd like to know if people have actually done that too, because it was the first time I'd heard that, and when I heard it, I was like, well, duh, that's what we should do. Right, but it never occurred to me before that. So maybe some people can call in our phone number and leave us a message about ways they've been successful doing that.
415-484-8496. Right? Okay. Mark will be happy. I'm saying the number right in the middle of the podcast. So
say it again.
All right. Ready? I know. 415-484-8496.
Call now.
Call now.
Standing by.
That's right.
And call and wake Neil up.
Wait a few hours.
But it's really interesting because Neil, we were having this conversation on Twitter today about the valuation of our services and how are people going. I mean, you started off this whole topic and conversation with, basically the perception that non-architects have about architects, and that they're just a necessary evil, and they're not without them ever knowing what it is that we bring to the table. It's just going to be this perpetual cycle of, us just scratching for whatever little bits and pieces we can get of a project or of money to just kind of keep us going. And I think even if we're doing, Evan, you said it best, even if we're doing pro bono work or doing some discounted stuff, let them know exactly what we've done for them. And even if we're doing it for free, or even if we're doing it for half price, sorry, Mark, seriously, the ambulance is on its way. We should at least let them know what we've brought to the project,
and you can't blame them, because the model that's been put in front is like these TV shows like Design on a Dime and Trading Spaces, where or what's that big one, the Super Home Makeover 3000. I mean, it's like it's miracle workers, right?
Well,
in 1 week, right? Don't they do that show in a week?
No. You're right. I mean, let's look at just one of them. The one where they basically they like bombard somebody in a they're walking around like Home Depot or something, and they come up and they're like, "Hey, can I follow you home? And what are you doing?" And then they're like, "Well, we can make over your house." And then it's like poof, the next day they come in with all of these drawings and stuff and say, "Look what we're going to do. Let's start swinging the hammer and demoing it and stuff." The irresponsibility of programs like that.
This is called a reality show, Cormac. It's real.
Well, I mean, the irresponsibility of shows like that are, they don't show what it takes to poof, have those drawings and poof, have that, permit. Just like, the guy Neil is trying to get, some extra work out of Neil for absolutely free. You don't know what it takes to get it to that point. And so everybody's like, oh, well, what do you mean you can't just show up the next day with, complete construction documents and a permit and everything else? They do it on TV all the time.
And this happens in big firms as well. You have people writing contracts and scope who don't do the work, and they have no idea what it takes either. And they don't take the time to come over and ask the people who do the work, hey, what do you think? And it's exactly the same thing. It's just happening in a different way.
No, that doesn't happen, does it?
That's a reality show.
We really need to actually expand on that particular topic, staffing of a project and, realistic time frames and all that other stuff.
Save that one for
that'll
another.
be Cormac show. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be Cormac's show. Yeah.
That sounds good. I think it would be a good point to wrap it up.
All right. Well, then in that case, if you have any questions or comments, please visit the website at archispeakpodcast.com. There you'll find links to our individual Twitter accounts and the Archispeak Podcast Facebook page. So you can also join in on this or any other conversation we've had. And then if you have an inspiring tale to share, call the Archispeak Podcast line at 415-484-8496, and maybe we'll share it on the show. And if you haven't done so already, please leave us a review on iTunes.
Cool. And if you have a minute, go to the site and sign up to get the show notes delivered to your mailbox. They show up the same day as the show goes out. And there's the links that I talked about and that we talked about during the show are going to be in there. It's definitely worth your time. So check them out. And that's it. Archispeakpodcast.com. And on just about every page, you can sign up for the show notes on the right-hand side.
Great. Well, everyone stay subscribed, and thanks for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, guys.
I used to shy away from the stampede. I'd hibernate, hunker down in my heart at all. To get good at the game, I had to grease up my riot gear and that craving came when you crossed along, yeah, when you came along. Triple dog dared me, turn the sprinklers on, barefoot in the driveway, baby. Platform dancing, form like a crazy man. Someone who proudly tumbled, diving face first, fat with chances, raving birthday suit and sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. I get naked. What do I got for my birthday suit? My little piece of creation. I'm gonna shake mom, I gave mom, I gave mom, I gave mom to say thank you. What would I have what I want to do? I'm a perfect relation. I'm gonna shake, I got love for you, love for you, love for you, love for you. I got love for you. I got love for you. I got love for you. I used to shy away from the limelight. I tuck my face up tight my sleeve and beg to build a better base. I had to fly my war paint right. I'm a better place since you made me upright. Love is never fight. Triple dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. Platform dancing, farm lake praising, fence someone who barely tumble, diving face first, fat witch and says, braving birthdays to you. Oh baby girl, triple dog dare me, turn the sprinklers on. Barefoot in the driveway, baby. I get naked. What have I got for my birthday suit? My little piece of creation.